Yesterday, it was my privilege and honor to participate as a keynote speaker in the Novant Health Huntersville Medical Center Veterans Day celebration yesterday. It was a great opportunity for me to reflect back on the value of loyalty and service. That's the motto for this year's Veterans Day, and to recognize those people who work for Novant and are also veterans. So what you're going to see here is a sort of a recap basically of what I did yesterday. Some different illustrations probably, but that's okay. And let me suggest to you that I work with three other folks on veterans visits. Rose Miller, she was a career Army officer, retiring after 27 years as a colonel. Tom Madre, who was a Naval Academy graduate, and Bruce Langhorne, who served in the Army, and he was with the military police and other activities such as that. And then me, my role, and I'll tell you more in just a minute. And the four of us do the veterans visits, and I can tell you, from my perspective, it's both a energizing activity, and it can also be very humbling when you encounter some of the veterans that are in pretty serious shape. So, my name is Ken Rethmeier. I'm a retired Navy captain, Medical Service Corps. I was a direct commission out of grad school in 1968, when the Vietnam War was really peaking in many respects. And I was sent forth with my commission in what was called supply and administration. But because of the war in Vietnam, you can imagine the Navy sort of selects things you may not want. But I went over and I served with the Fleet Marine Force as a preventive medicine and environmental health officer for all the Marines in what we called the Northern I Corps of South Vietnam. And my team and I were on the road every day doing a whole variety of things. And the next slide will give you some picture of some of the things that we were involved in. Da Nang unfortunately became a refuge for North Vietnamese people who wanted to get out of North Vietnam, come down south. So you will see on the picture here, those homes, that home was in pretty bad shape and the other one pretty bad shape. And they lived that way, and the sanitation was horrible. And I'm in that picture in the middle. And the picture down at the lower left-hand side is the Waukon Children's Hospital. And that was a place that we would volunteer to go down. And you can see that young man wearing my cover. He was a cute little kid, and when I went in, every time he would wave me over to his bed and then point to the cover, because that's what he wanted to wear. And I often wondered what happened to him, if he's still alive. If he is, he's got to be close to 60 years or greater, because I was there 55 years ago this month. And the picture next to him shows some of the sad parts of what was going on in terms of malnutrition and other things. And when I got there, I had no idea as to what was going to happen to me and how much of a turning point that was going to be in my life, but it was. It was a great one. And in addition to working at the hospital as a volunteer there, my team and I went out to villages working with the State Department and the Department of Agriculture, helping communities set up proper sanitation systems, and that was a very interesting project, set a series of projects. And I have to tell you that my tour there, despite the fact that I have cancer as a result of Agent Orange, was a lifetime experience. And I learned a lot about public health. I was able to apply a lot of the thinking there. And I have to give a doctor by the name of Shotland at the UCLA Medical School, where I took my course in epidemiology. Because the very first day when I hit the ground, I was investigating foodborne illness outbreaks, and one of them was a very big one in Da Nang at what was called the Freedom Hill Exchange, and I had to get the work done quickly because that Saturday, after arriving on Monday, I was going to fly down with the commanding general Patalino to brief him and a guy named Charlie Key, who was the third master surgeon. So a lot of work very quickly, and actually that worked out quite well for me. The opportunity to be a medical service corps officer for all those years. For me, it was a life-changing experience, something that I will never forget. And yes, there were some tough times, there's no question about it. One of the toughest parts of my role there was monthly having to go down to the 1st Med Battalion and inspect the morgue, which was a wake-up call every single time I was there. It was tough. But there were other times when we saved people's lives. Then we had opportunities to help them in the environments that they were in. That was very reassuring, and we congratulate the people that we worked with. So this year at Novant Health, the opportunity here to recognize the employees on their staff that are also veterans. It's about 25, 26, not bad. And they come from all different services. And this year's motto, as you see there, is loyalty and service. And it was designed by Misha Godet. You can read this. She is retired disabled Army veteran, and I'm guessing that she was medically retired. However, it was interesting, she said that she didn't think that she was getting the respect that she deserved as a veteran. So that's why she took on this task. And she wanted, as you see there, to symbolize the shared experience of service members, past, present, and future. With the elements of the American flag, military dog tags. I still have mine, and almost once a week I look at them just as a reminder. Small things, but big events that happened while I was there. And so what I'm going to do, for those of you watching, is I'm going to ask you why. What stands out in your mind about what happened when you were there that increased your sense of loyalty and service, regardless of the military service you were in? If you'll pardon the pun, we were all in the same boat. And I want you to think about the leaders that you encountered who had a great impact on your perspective and your vision of what the world was. I took a lot from that, and over the years developed a model for leaders. You see part of it. It was see, believe, and achieve. Part of that comes from the artist Degas, who was talking about what is my role as an artist. And he said, it's my responsibility to help you see what I can see. And I added to that, believe and achieve, because leaders are responsible for helping their folks see what they can see about what they can achieve and where they ought to go, to help them believe in what they're doing. And that comes from education, increasing one's capabilities and capacities, and it leads to the confidence that you have, that your leader helps provide support for, that you will make and achieve the mission you have been tasked to pursue. So it's see, believe, and achieve. And for those of you watching, you might think about this. It's taking the model, see, believe, and achieve, lining it with loyalty and sacrifice. And as we go through these slides, I would recommend that you just jot some notes down about some of the leaders you encountered and how they may have helped you. I think about that all the time. And during my 22 years on active duty, I was really blessed to work with some really wonderful people. And we'll start with recognizing the Army. And at the Novant Medical Center, they have a wall that's called Honoring Our Heroes. The money was provided by Brad Keselowski, NASCAR drivers, Checkered Flag Foundation, and the hospital was kind enough to ask me to help them design it. It's a great piece of work. And on it, you will see some of the names of the Army folks that work there, 13 of them. And every day I go in, I'm reminded to look for some of these folks, where they're working, how they're doing, and to help them see what I can see. And I tell you that those three people, besides myself, when we do the veterans visits, it's invigorating and it's also humbling, because some of those folks are really having tough times health-wise. Well, this is the first of the videos that recognizes what Army is all about.
I am an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place mission first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined.
Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Where you saw one perspective about the Army, and that theme, Army Strong, is very important. It provides the kind of perspective that officers and enlisted personnel in that service, the Army, take into account every single day when they come to work or when they're out in the battlefield. And I want you to think about, who were those leaders that helped you to see? I could name you a few in my own career. And it started essentially when I was a master's student. And I was doing my master's work under a guy named Arnold D. Kaluzny. And he helped me to see things about healthcare and public health that I would have never seen otherwise. And he and I still talk all these years later, since 1967, when we first met. Now, there's another part of the Army that, as a Navy guy, I think you can appreciate. So we'll show that video. We'll come back to that message a little later.
I look good up in here. I look like freedom.
Last year, the Navy told you the Army don't give a ship.
What kind of ships does Army give? None.
And they're right. We don't give a ship. We give a truck, though.
That's a ship.
We give a truck about winning wars and looking good while we save babies.
My baby.
Gotcha, baby. The Navy don't give a truck, though. If they did, they wouldn't allow this hideous creature to escort them on the field. I mean, I could sit here all day and tell you all about how the Army go beat the Navy, but why do that when I could show you more of this disgusting beast? If you're not rooting for the Army, you're rooting for this thing. Yeah. Go Army, beat Navy.
No goats, babies, or sailors were injured in the making of this video.
Army! Or guess what? In just a few weeks, December 14th, the big Army-Navy game. It's always fun to watch. Sometimes painful to see the ending, but it's a great, great scene to see all these youngsters, and I mean youngsters, gathered together to battle each other in football, but recognizing that they're all on the same playing field, if you will. So we'll switch now to my service, United States Navy. I never thought I would make it a career, but you know, the longer I served and the more I did, and the opportunities I had, which included going back to school and getting my master's degree at the Navy's expense, my doctorate in healthcare administration. I can tell you, everywhere I was, every time I left that command or whatever responsibilities I had learned a great deal. I meant to meet as many people as I could. And here are the folks at Novant Medical Center, and 12 of them in the Navy. You can see my name down there, Kenneth Rethmeier. And oh, by the way, when I got home, when we did the Honoring Our Heroes wall, I told my wife, I said, the best part about it was we got my name up there on a plaque, and it didn't require an urn nor ashes. Sorry for that. In any event, let's move forward. I can tell you that the day I got my commission, I was called a direct commission right out of grad school. It was a big relief because during the 60s, when I was an undergraduate student at UCLA, especially in 1965, that's when the Marines landed at Red Beach. And little did I know that about four and a half years later, I was going to be very close to that location. And I can tell you without a doubt that every day I was there, I learned something new about public health, about diseases, about how to help protect people from malaria, tuberculosis, and a whole variety of other things. And to try to solve and fix foodborne illness outbreaks, which were rampant. And then to be out in the villas, helping those people build and create sanitation systems. So in this point, I want you to look back at the leaders that you recognize. And there were a couple that really stand out in my mind. One of them was a guy named Paul Rucci. He was a commanding officer, at the Naval Regional Medical Center in Long Beach, California, and my wife and I were fortunate enough to get one of the duplex units right behind the hospital. Now, I was a pretty young guy, okay, 29, I think, at that point. This was about 5 years after Vietnam. And at night, Rucci's kids, one of them was the jock and one was a undergrad he was at the Naval Academy. They'd come by and say, "Can Lieutenant Rethmeier come out and play basketball?" So I'd go out, have some fun. They always beat me, or at least normally. But one night I beat Bobby, and he was the jock in the family. Well, the next day I'm walking down the passageway, and I see Captain Rucci, and I'll try to see if I can show you. He was Italian, and he goes, "Here, I want to talk to you." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Bobby told me what you did to him last night." I said, "Yes, sir." He looked at me and he says, "Don't ever let that happen again." Well, I had just augmented in the Navy, regular Navy. I thought, oh, that's cool. My career's over already. A career-limiting gesture. So I started walking away thinking, oh my God. He started laughing, came up, put his arm around my shoulder, and he said, "Thank you. Somebody needed to take the wind out of that kid's sails." But you know what? That was what the military was all about, because we could have some fun together and yet work together diligently in every way we could. Now, this is another video. I'll let it speak for itself.
Hi, I'm Rylan, and I'm still in the Navy. Now, I know what you may be wondering. With last year's upset, what went wrong? I don't have the right answer for you. But my guess is that we all need a break, to recoup. You know, like Army did for 14 straight years. But that's beside the point. Now, we're back and we're ready to go. And if someone asked me if we're gonna get that victory come game day, I'd look them square in the eye and say, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now I already know what you're going to ask.
What the hell?
Good question. It's this thing, from where we sail our ships to victory. No way.
Yes way.
Underway.
Hell yeah. That's a big ass ship. Wait.
This year, the midshipmen are ready to start another winning streak.
Not again.
And you know who's sending at the helm with them? Us, the fleet.
Hell yeah.
Helm yeah!
Hell yeah!
Helm yeah! Helm yeah! Helm yeah!
One can win a fight, but only a team can take a victory. Navy, let's take the helm and drive the ship to victory.
Hell yeah.
Cool. That was a good one. I liked that one, and I liked the Army one. And we had some fun together about that. Now we're going to look at the Air Force. I'm going to tell you very quickly, one of my mother's sisters, my Aunt Ruby, was a librarian at the Air Force Academy for a number of years. And she used to say that that was the best job she ever had, bar none, just because of the quality of people she worked with and the quality of the young men and women who were assigned there for academic purposes and to become part of the United States Air Force. And we have a number of folks, 5, at the Novant Medical Center, and their motto is fly, fight, win.
America's future will be determined by your dreams and your visions.
For some of you will travel where no man has ever traveled before. Some of you will fly the fastest planes that have ever been built. Reach the highest altitude that man has ever gone to.
Whether you serve in the skies above or on the ground below, each of you has stepped forward to defend your country.
The American people support you. They are counting on you, and they believe you truly do represent the best of America.
With the Air Force, we're going to ask you to think about those leaders that helped you reach a point where you had the confidence to achieve any mission you were assigned. As my kids used to say, disregardless of how insurmountable it was. That was true in war. We saw it in Vietnam every day. We see it in peacetime because there are a lot of activities that our military get involved in that are just the right thing to do in their own communities. And the next military force is the Marine Corps. When I served in Vietnam, my hooch mate, George O'Kelly, now you're famous, George, was my hooch mate, and I got to know the lawyers quite well. We got together in the evenings when we could, and now we do Zoom meetings. Tragically, we've lost a lot of them to Agent Orange, similar to me, cancer, and other problems. But I can tell you what I learned serving with that Marine Corps and reporting to that commanding general, Patalino. You know, I didn't go to his house every month or his office to brief him on what was happening. He came to my office. And if you think about it as a leader, there's a strong message there, very strong. And as a consequence, I learned a heck of a lot. And I loved being with those guys. They were really fun to be with.
For every generation, it has started with the call to serve. Discovering the purpose and the belonging earned with the title. Learning to dig deep and push through adversity together. Defending our nation and its people. It is a life of great worth and reward. But Marines are never really finished serving. Their commitment comes full circle, visible in communities across our country. This is Semper Fidelis, always faithful, always Marine, marking a path for the next generation.
Semper Fidelis is the motto of the Marine Corps, and it means always faithful in Latin. It's always faithful to country and always faithful to Corps.
One of the greatest rewards of serving in the Marines is that there's no such thing as an ex-Marine, no such thing as a former Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
A lot of people know what Semper Fidelis means, but a lot of people don't know what it means to a Marine.
You have to be loyal to something. You can't just be loyal in and of yourself. You are loyal to your fellow Marine. You're loyal to the Marine Corps.
Semper Fidelis, it means always watching out for your brothers to your left and to your right. Watching their backs, whether it be at work or, if they need a favor off duty, helping them out whenever you can.
It symbolizes all the trust and the morale that the Marines carry within themselves. It's not something that's given to you, it's something that you develop throughout your Marine Corps career. It's something that the Marines carry inside of them.
What makes me most proud about being a Marine is the legacy, tradition, esprit de corps, sense of belonging.
Tradition and pride is one of the greatest things that we have. When you join the Marine Corps, you're picking up the torch and you are stepping into the boots of the people who have laid the groundwork of this country, who have fought and died to keep this country where it is.
That represents the very best of what we do and what we have. And that brings us to the point where, as you think about your own role in whatever you're doing, I want you to think about how you can help others to see what you see in your own leadership journey, to help them believe in what you believe in, because that increases their capacities and capabilities to get the job done, not just on time and on target, but with a level of quality that's just beyond any recognition. And then thirdly, having closure by having the confidence that you will have in order to achieve the mission, the vision, values, and goals and objectives. And if you keep that in mind, you will never be a failure. You will always be successful. And just like they said, once a Marine, always a Marine. I can tell you that. I run into Marines at the hospital all the time during veterans visits. And that's one thing they will tell you over and over again, which is great. Well, a few weeks ago, Auburn University took advantage of the football game, at halftime to recognize one of their alumnus, Major General James E. Livingston, Marine Corps retired, and he was a recipient of the Medal of Honor. What a great deal. He's right there with his hand up, and I can tell you that it was wonderful for everybody, but especially wonderful for those two young men on the far right, because they were selected by the university to represent both the NROTC program as well as the Sigma Pi fraternity, which General Livingston had been a part of. And the one young man down there with the little mustache and the striped shirt, horizontal striped shirt, that's my grandson, Carter. And I told him afterwards, I said, you know, Carter, you will never forget that. You will always remember this guy, and he will have a permanent influence on your development and your growth, not just in the Navy, but life as well. And I can tell you that we're so proud of that young man, and we know he's going to make a great leader. We don't have employees at Novant from the Coast Guard or the Space Force, but it is important to recognize them, and we salute them on this Veterans Day. It's a very important thing. Well, one day when I was doing my visits at the hospital, I ran into Dr. Sayans, and she was asking me if I thought that the hospital would set beds aside to put, and rooms, to allow putting veterans who were suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I thought for a second, and I thought, my goodness sakes, I should have thought of that. You know, with my own background, and having served in Vietnam and having seen what happens to these folks and experiencing it firsthand with others. So I said, you go see Mike Riley. He's the president and chief operating officer of this hospital. He's also a nurse by training and grew up in a Marine Corps family in a sweet little town called Havelock, North Carolina, where the Marine Corps Air Station, that's where I was stationed when I got home from Vietnam, at the hospital. So she did. And once I knew she had done that, I sent Mike a note, got a note back very quickly saying, thank you so much. That's a wonderful idea. And the other day, he reinforced the fact that he has now recommended it as a corporate issue across all of Novant Health. And so we took time to salute Dr. Sayans yesterday, although she couldn't be with us in person. Now we're going to go back to something. In the Navy, I was fortunate enough to be selected to be the commanding officer of the Naval School of Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland. And at the 6-week mark, I was required to have a strategy speech. And the strategy speech was designed to help provide a direction that our command was going to be going and what we were going to be doing the next 3 years in my command. And you know, I thought back once. I said, I'm going to go back and think about this. I worked at Disneyland in college on the Jungle Cruise. You can see 1967, and I had the best job in the park. And the spiel's pretty good. I'll go through part of it in a few minutes. But he taught me a lot about leadership. Again, when you're in your own office by yourself, you're off stage. You walk out of that office, you're on stage, and everything you do or everything you say is going to ripple through the whole organization. And I learned that very much when I was commanding officer of the Naval School of Health Sciences. 4 detachments, including one in the United States, CONUS, continental United States. one in Groton, Connecticut, where we taught undersea medicine, and one in Panama, where we taught tropical medicine to the physicians and hospital corpsmen that were going over there. And I learned a lot about that whole idea of see, believe, and achieve, because you have to have the right vision, the right values and goals and objectives, and the enthusiasm to energize those people to make a difference. So I told my Chief Petty, my Master Chief, and my XO, I said, okay, tomorrow I've got my strategy speech in front of 300 people. In my service dress blues, as you see them there, they're actually black in color. I'm standing up there and I said, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. So what did I do? I opened my speech because the previous CO had run it with an iron fist, and I wanted to shake him up. So I started my speech with the opening lines of the Jungle Cruise. Welcome aboard, unwary travelers, to the Congo Maiden. My name is Ken. I'll be your skipper and guide down the rivers of adventure. Before we get too far away from the dock, I want you to turn around. That's it. Wave goodbye to your friends and family. It may be the last time you see them. And as we leave the last outpost of civilization, we enter onto the so forth and so on. And it goes on for about 11 more minutes. And I guarantee you, if you say that 25 times a day, you will remember it. So I opened my speech that way. And I saw a guy named Charlie Jacobson, Nurse Corps officer, Lieutenant Commander, and he was giving me the thumbs up, and I saw other people smiling and nodding. Well, I saw the Chief Petty Officer thinking, oh my God, we've got a nutcase. But what happened was I went back, I gathered those people together the next day, and I said, you and I are going to change this command. And in 6 months, we had converted this old building on the first deck into what contained a formal quarterdeck, that's Navy, and a whole series of various things, enunciators and so forth and so on, and a ship, I think it was the Missouri, under glass. And the idea was to make it look like a museum, because a museum, in my mind, is a learning opportunity. And we did. We made a difference. When I got a call from a guy named Tommy Thompson, chief of the medical department detailing, asking, why is everybody putting their preference to come to your command? I told my command we were a success and we were doing the right thing. It was great. A lot of fun, and learned a lot, and a lot of good stories. So we closed by this salute. Some gave some gave all, but we salute you all. We come to the close of this video, and it's a long one. I'm sorry about that. But I felt like I needed to do it to help people understand what I saw and what I believe, and how proud I am to be part of something that was much bigger than me, much bigger than most anybody. Able to serve as a medical service corps officer, commissioned service for 22 years, retiring as a captain 06. And having greatest memories of the people I served with, the commanding officers and the commanders that I served for, who inspired me to do my very best and to help me and guide me so I could see, believe, and achieve. I want to thank you for your time.